And big happenings. Kyle Field, College Station, Texas, Texas A&M Aggies. The road to the SEC goes through them. No one saw it coming. Here it is. Mike Elko, first year. Everyone thought, hey, there's still a lot of talent from those big recruiting classes of Jimbo Fisher. What if they get organized? Then they're down 10 entering the third quarter. It's LSU. It's looking like, hey, good season. You know, they dropped the opener, Notre Dame, of course. Good season, maybe not all the way there. He goes, pulls Connor Wegman, goes back to Marcel Reed, who had played a little when Wegman had been hurt. 4 consecutive touchdowns. A 31-6 second half blitz by the Aggies. And they beat LSU 38-23. Only undefeated team in SEC play. They are 7-1. Their next 3 games are at South Carolina, New Mexico State, at Auburn. Nothing is guaranteed anymore, but the chances of them being 8-0 or 7-0 in the SEC and 10-0 overall heading into the Texas game, which they host on Thanksgiving weekend and practically, I don't know, having a playoff bid lined up is real. Incredible performance. And then Elko, just to make it more fun, comes out after the game and says, quote, "This is a real program. It's not fake, unlike the Army. This is a real program. It's not fake. It's not a politician running this program, talking fast and BSing everybody. This is a real program, and for all the recruits out there, this is a real place. Attack ads. It's attack ads." Anyone know a former political operative that happens to run an SEC football program? Pat, do you know one?
I'm trying to think. Maybe the guy in Baton Rouge that he just beat? Maybe.
Ooh, babe.
Maybe.
What
fast
happened?
talkers. No, who was the fastest talker in the SEC? Jimbo Fisher. Literal fast talker.
Yeah.
Who knows how many people he was actually stabbing at there?
What are our remember that game Clue, like who got killed, like so and so did it with the candlestick? Who got here? Is it Kelly or is it Jimbo? Or
I
both?
think it's Jimbo. I think the comments were directed toward Jimbo. We had a lot of spicy comments from coaches. Mario Cristobal too, after his game, taking shots at Mike Norvell and his program as well. So everybody's always be Cruton. Everybody was Cruton. Few Cruton comments going on after these big wins.
Big wins is the time to talk big. They did that. Elko, it's interesting. I mean, you know, he's one of those guys that you can sit there and talk to him. You don't walk away and saying, wow, that, you know, this towering intellect or you know, this commanding presence per se. His results speak for themselves. I mean, he's done phenomenal work as a head coach. And that was the sign I thought of an Elko team in the second half. Just tough. And said, fine, we'll change quarterbacks and then we're just going to pound you and we're going to get an advantage and we're going to press the advantage and we're going to turn it into a tidal wave of momentum. And that was impressive. And so then, yes, afterwards, whoever he was shooting at, I think there are probably multiple people who felt like they had been shot out after that.
Yeah, you know, go back to Mike Elko and you know, his first year at Duke. You know, he was 9-4, now 7-1 at A&M. So you know, 16-5 in his first years with programs right now, and 10-3 combined conference record in his first seasons at those two schools. It's pretty remarkable what he's done. They run the ball really well. They kind of play in, you know, a little bit of an old school kind of way about them. They run the ball really well. They play really solid defense. And yeah, Marcel Reed, I think we talked about it earlier this year. We were surprised after Marcel Reed played against Florida and did so well that Wegman actually was back in the lineup and it was a little head scratching. And lo and behold, here we are. He brings them in off the bench and sparks them, and now I'm not so sure there's a really big quarterback controversy. I don't know how you can't start that kid. He's slippery and gets away, has that dual threat ability, and then, man, he throws a really pretty deep ball. We saw it on the what was it, the 55 yarder or whatever late in the game. That really was a crucial play.
So A&M, I think we all agree, has been this potential sleeping giant, or at least sleeping something close to giant. Maybe it's that they're always trying to become the giant instead of just being really good. But you smack dab in the middle of Texas. You got SEC membership all these years now, 10 years. The way Houston is growing, you get closer and closer to where all the players in Houston are. But you're an hour and a half from one of the 3 or 4 best recruiting spots, let alone the Metroplex and everywhere else in Texas. The facilities are unbelievable. The stadium, the fans hit a level of enthusiasm that the program doesn't deserve or hasn't earned. There's money. It's all there, and yet one 10-win season. It was 11 wins, but one double-digit win season since 1998. Just one. And that was the Johnny Manziel kind of Heisman, just, dream season. They did go 9-1 in 2020, which was a great season. They didn't get to 10, but that was a great season under Jimbo Fisher. But they have tried everything. I kind of feel like right now what Elko's setting up, he's not the Jimbo Fisher hire, or he's not wheeling around in helicopters like Kevin Sumlin when they were hot, but they're building an identity that seems like something they can duplicate year in, year out. And I feel like for the first time in a very long time, the spark that they're showing right now is something that might be sustainable. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it should be. Why shouldn't it be? And I do think they have a coach of real substance right now who's also an excellent recruiter. And you delineated all the advantages they have. So take advantage of them. Avoid, self-sabotage. They were on the very cutting edge with their collective and with NIL. They've got it all there. So it stands to reason Texas A&M should be in the mix at the very top of the SEC more often than not. I mean, it's a tough league for sure, but if Texas can be there, so can they. If Alabama can be there, so can they. If Georgia can be there, so can they. So I think the opportunity for sure is there. And I will say too, there's been some questionable fan revolts to a potential coaching hire. The Texas A&M fan revolt or booster revolt or whoever nuked Mark Stoops, in favor of Mike Elko looks pretty smart right now.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. We talk a lot. Texas A&M have for years been the example of money doesn't buy you victories. And we talked about it on the show a lot before. A&M and Texas are continuously up in the top 5 of as far as budgets nationally. And usually they're 1 and 2 in donations. In fact, I'm looking at last year's donations, Dan. Texas A&M, $115 million in donations. Texas was number 2, $86 million in donations last year. And they've just been this kind of the poster children for, you can spend all this money and still not win championships. And lo and behold, finally, here we are. The Longhorns and the Aggies backing up the big bucks. And we could see at the end of the year, man, wouldn't it be incredible if 10-1 Texas was playing 10-1 Texas A&M for a trip to the SEC championship game in a secure college football playoff berth. And the stars are starting to align.
This is a Mike's Live initiative to get into Texas. And I find it to be very interesting that in the first year there's Texas A&M and Texas, both in the league, that they would have they could potentially have such an important role in determining championship and all of that. You could actually have them play twice if a few other things break down. Probably won't. But there's just so many people and players and money in the state of Texas that it's an overwhelming thought for not necessarily some of the SEC, the top of the SEC, but the other parts of the SEC of going, oh boy, like that state isn't like our state. 108,000 there yesterday. Quickly on LSU, where do they go from here, Ross?
Yeah, tough. It's tough to be up 10, right? And not just lose, but lose by a couple of touchdowns. Garrett Nussmeier, 3 interceptions. Yeah, just really bad second half by LSU, and they haven't had bad second halves. They stormed back against Ole Miss in the second half. South Carolina, they had an incredible second half. They've been really good, and so that was certainly disappointing. They get a bye week, and then they'll get Alabama. They have to then go to Florida, and they get Vandy and Oklahoma to end the year. So 4 straight SEC games, 3 of the 4 at home. There's still a chance, right? I think Brian Kelly said it after the game. We have now no margin. There's no margin for error. Yeah, one more loss probably, right, dooms you. I'm sure at some point we'll see a 9-3 team make the playoff and get an at-large berth. I don't know if that is going to be this year, given what's happened and where we are in standings right now. So they got to win probably all these 4 games and try to lock this thing up. But really, really disappointing defensive performance by LSU in the second half. And I can't remember who said it after the game. One of LSU's defensive players, I'm not remembering who said it, but said they didn't prepare for Marcel Reed to come in. Didn't expect him to play and didn't prepare. And they kind of looked like it, right? He averaged 7 yards a carry and kind of ran all over him, slipped out of some things. And, so not great for the Tigers.
It is going to be so interesting to see where the bottom part of the playoff bracket shakes out and how many losses there are. Because for now, teams that I think a lot of people have been expecting to lose haven't. Iowa State's still winning. BYU's still winning. Pittsburgh's still winning. Miami's still winning. Indiana's still winning. And as long as they're winning, you could be sitting there with 2 losses and you're saying, hey, when are people going to back up to us? When are we going to get our shot here? And LSU now joins that group with Alabama and who knows who else. Is like 2 lost teams that are hoping you can get in with that number. And Lord Almighty, I think the politicking over strength of schedule is just going to be as bad as the political ads in the final weeks of this. It's going to be a pitched battle, I think, to present your 2 lost teams as playoff worthy against other teams that may be sitting there with 1 loss from other leagues. So this is going to be fascinating.
Speaking of 1-loss teams, Notre Dame, that 23-13 season opener at A&M is looming bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better and better for the Irish. It's interesting, not every week matters. I think we're seeing it might. And you're looking at that opening week and you go, oh, nothing matters, everyone getting the playoff. Well, LSU losing to USC is a huge knock against them right now. And Notre Dame beating A&M is a huge chip on in their resume. Pat, you were there. They took apart Navy 51-14. We know they lost to Northern Illinois. They didn't show up. They lose 16-14. Everything else has been really impressive. Only game close was at Louisville. Or Louisville's home. They played Louisville at home, right?
Yeah, it's in South Bend.
31-24. But I mean, Georgia Tech. They've done what they had to do. It's not an impressive schedule, but they're whacking people. What'd you think of the Irish yesterday in ending the midshipmen's undefeated dream in East Rutherford?
Yeah, this will be interesting. Like, if Notre Dame remains kind of one of the flashpoints here, did the committee watch this game and remember this game, or did they look at a score that says Notre Dame beat an undefeated team by 37? Because the score is impressive, and Notre Dame did nothing wrong. But Navy did so many things wrong, unforced, that really this game was as much about Navy self-destructing as it was Notre Dame dominating them. I mean, Notre Dame played well. They did. They made very few mistakes. They've got some real playmaking guys on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. But out of Navy's 6 turnovers, their most in a game in 22 years, 5 of them were completely unforced by Notre Dame. Drop pitch, blown handoff, drop punt, other drop punt. Quarterback drops the ball backpedaling into the end zone. I mean, it was, bless their hearts. Navy's had a good season, but that was an ugly performance. So, this is going to be an interesting one where the A&M victory is one of the best victories anybody's got right now. The loss to Northern Illinois is one of the worst losses anybody's got right now. So how do you parse all of this when it's time to parse it for the committee?
Yeah, come selection committee time, if they do get in the field, Notre Dame will probably have one of the best wins, maybe the best win of anybody in the field. And they'll almost certainly have the worst loss of anybody in the playoff field. It's bizarre. I didn't get to watch a ton of this game, but it sounds like Navy really didn't perform on the big stage against the Irish, and that's too bad, because it was fun going over there. We talked about it earlier this week, and it's cool to see the Army and the Navy when they were undefeated and all this going on. But when I visited over there and met with the coaches, it was pretty clear that that they were fighting an uphill battle on competing with Notre Dame from watching film and seeing the guys, especially on defense, that Notre Dame have. But when you fumble 7 times and lose 5 of them, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, some of those were just like pitch outs that were just dropped. Obviously almost every turnover is forced in some way. You take your eyes off the ball because you think you might get hit. But these were not like diving, tip ball interceptions, it's just Travis Hunter-esque type plays or something like that. It was a lot of it was not a good performance. I just think schedule-wise, Notre Dame's not going to have a ton to hang their hat on. But boy, you got to be the second biggest crop of Aggie fans is sitting in South Bend, Indiana right now, because they can keep cruising, and they got decent way. Louisville victory should be all right, and Virginia, Georgia Tech, these teams, Florida State, who they got next. Or after a bye week isn't there, and then they got the USC at the end. But Notre Dame, they are very, very fortunate that A&M is not having what maybe most of us predicted, which would have been 7-5 or something like that kind of season, because they could be staring at nothing. We'll see. We also got to see if Army can keep winning or Navy. Other really interesting game was late Saturday night. Colorado Buffaloes come in and get their 6th win of the season, beat Cincinnati in Boulder, 34-23. Really strong performance. Both teams entered with just 1 loss in the Big 12. Colorado's now 6-2 and 3-1 or 4-1, I think.
4-1.
4-1 now. They're bowl eligible. Shedeur Sanders, 25 of 30 for 323 yards, 3 touchdowns. He completed his first 15 passes in this game. He was excellent. He has been playing great football. Coach Prime was like, hey, how come he never gets mentioned for the Heisman? I don't know that he's been able to, considering he's generally getting beaten the heck up half the time. But Travis Hunter does get mentioned for the Heisman, and he's back. 9 receptions, 153, 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and he played 130 of 131 snaps. He's a unicorn. We love Genty. We like I don't know what else to say. Anyway, we'll get to Travis in a sec. We've talked about Prime slowly showing he was right. He's right, man. This team was 1-11 that he took over a season and a half ago. They lost those 11 games by 32.4 points a game. It wasn't close. Colorado gave up 50 more touchdowns in 2022 than they scored. They were the worst team. Their program had no hope. They were going nowhere. He's the 9th coach in like 16 years or something. I think it was 16 of 17 years were losing seasons. Horrible program. No fans showing up. Nothing. He gets it going last year, and everyone's like, well, it's flash. You can sell out because it's exciting. They sell out again on Saturday. They're on national television, I think, for the 7th time this year. And they're bowl eligible, in the chase for the Big 12 championship, in the chase for an automatic bid to college football playoff. And Colorado football is, I don't care who you hired. If you were sitting there at 6-2, you'd be like, man, this guy's doing an unbelievable job. Pat?
Absolutely. Give Coach Prime his flowers. He has earned them. There were a lot of people, obviously a lot of naysayers. Then they watched him start 3-0, and then it fell apart last year, and the naysayers were as loud as they could possibly be. He's not really a coach. He's a celebrity. He's all splash and dash. There's no substance there. Can't build a program. So they went out in the offseason, got better, a lot better. They are a much more solid team than they were last year. They're better coached. They have better players across the board. They are solid defensively. They run the ball. And they have certainly one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the country, right there with Cam Ward and Shedeur, I think, are the top 2 quarterbacks. And then they have Travis Hunter, which is something nobody else has. And nobody else has had in a long time. Plus a lot of other good players. So they have put it together, and Deion Sanders deserves the credit. There were so many people waiting for him to fail, and I'm sorry, but you're still waiting. Didn't happen this year.
I think there were a lot of people waiting for him to fail and rooting for him to fail. You got that sense really ever since he took over in some of the things he said in his first season and during the off season, bringing the Louis and all that stuff. The Louis is appears to be paying off. And there were a lot of doubters and a lot of people rooting against him. There's no doubt about it. And when you look at the Big 12 standings, I mean, Colorado does not play the top 2 teams in the league, right? BYU and Iowa State, and they have a loss to Kansas State in the last second, almost came back and won that game. That's their only loss, Kansas State. So those 2 are tied right now behind BYU and Iowa State, who are undefeated. So this Big 12 race between those 4 shaping up to be pretty fun here down the stretch, because Kansas State and Iowa State do play, I think, to end the year. So there is a chance that you could have like a 3-way tie to get in the championship game. Or a 4-way tie in 2 of the 4 get in the championship game. So it's as predicted, the Big 12 race is pretty crazy. I saw John Wilner had tweeted out, I thought, a really interesting post. The top 5 in the Big 12 preseason media poll, how they're doing, right? Utah was picked to win it. They're 1-4. Kansas State is the only team in the top 5 that were picked, picked to finish in the top 5 of the Big 12. Of those 5, Kansas State's the only one with a record of a winning record at 4-1. Oklahoma State 0-5, Kansas 1-4, Arizona 1-4. So pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, dramatic win by Kansas State.
Stormed back, and KU fumbled it away. Yeah.
Yeah, that was exciting. Sunflower State coming together. I love it. They hit that one field goal. It's like this close game, and then the signs are like, "We own the state." It's kind of close.
16 straight wins, Dan.
But no, I know they do. They dominate. They've dominated that rivalry. And K-State's getting a lot of good players from state of Kansas to play for them. It's like Prime. It's his own fault, probably. He didn't just come. He creates so much attention and says so many things. I mean, he said, "Hey, it's cute." Or bowl eligible, we don't care. That's not what we're looking for here. People are like, well, that's fine. They're finally winning. But, what happens when his son's gone? And what happens when Travis Hunter leaves? What happens to any program?
Yeah.
Unless you're Georgia and Ohio State. And yes, they're not always going to have a top 10 draft pick at quarterback. But he's trying to recruit some. And he had a last week. He said, I thought was really interesting was, I guess I'm looking at this defense is better. That's really what surprised me. Last year, it looked like a bunch of guys kind of playing together. And now they're really, or just playing the same side of the ball. Now they're playing together, up to 10 sacks in the last 4 games. They had 4 tackles for a loss yesterday. Also, he had a line last week. He said about putting these teams together through the portal, which he did at Jackson State, and he likened back to when he ran this prep school in Dallas back in the day, but just sort of finding guys and plugging them in and making a team work. And he said the defensive line now, they really listen to like Warren Sapp and things like that. They're dialed in. But he said, we kind of know what we're doing, he said. I know it didn't seem like we did early on, basically. And we've been doing this for a while, building teams since I was at the youth level go on. We kind of know the landscape a little bit, and now comes the pass, and we're excited about it. That's the first acknowledgement I've seen that he's like, yeah, it probably did look chaotic from the outside or the inside or anywhere, because it was chaotic. But here we are. And so, yes, Shedeur Sanders is going to the NFL. Yes, Travis Hunter's going to the NFL. But he talked about it's a lot easier to recruit now when you have proof of concept, when you're winning. He had another big-time offensive lineman up there who's committed to USC. He's trying to flip. I can see him getting more into the high school ranks to the tune of 15 guys. But other than that, he's like, we're going to get portal. But he's going out in the portal and saying, you're going to play and you're going to win. And look how cool our uniforms is. And look at this place. Everyone who's saying he's just going to bail out or not care after Shedeur leaves and Shiloh leaves, those are the same people that said this wouldn't work right now. Like, betting against Deion Sanders has never been a good idea. So I think he's true. This could work. He's doing it differently, but it's working.
Yeah, that's it. That it ran so far against convention, basically, of how you build a program that the immediate reaction was, no, this won't work. I'm wondering, we seem like we're kind of overdue for another one of those anonymous coach stories where they all take shots at how Deion's built the program. It's been a while, but since we had one of those.
Can't build chemistry without high school recruiting. Well, that D-line looks pretty chemistried.
Still offensive line questions, but the offensive line is certainly the weak point on the team, but they have improved tremendously on defense. There's no doubt. Yeah.
I mean, if they end up 8-4, they still got, it's not going to be easy the rest of the way, but this is an unmitigated success.
No doubt.
And again, from where they were at. I mean, look, they're at Texas Tech, they get Utah, at Kansas, Oklahoma State. Can you win them all? Can you win 3? Should win the last 2.
Yeah.
But they're
going to be, they might be favored in all 4. I don't know what the line is for Texas Tech. That's 2 weeks. Yeah. I mean, Utah's falling apart. Oklahoma State is falling apart. Kansas is semi falling apart. So,
all right, we'll be back after this. More breakdown. All right, big result Saturday. We talked a ton about this and what it would mean for each program on Thursday's show. A pretty lengthy Penn State and Wisconsin discussion. If you want to go back to that, if you missed it. and you can kind of plug in the result. But Penn State holds on, comes back, wins at Wisconsin, stays undefeated, sets up the big matchup with Ohio State. Both Ohio State with one loss, obviously Penn State undefeated, in Happy Valley Saturday. We'll talk about that game all week. Do it with Drew Aller being hurt. I thought this was a really good victory for Penn State. Like, this wasn't easy. A lot of things could go wrong. We'll see if Aller is ready to go against Ohio State. You probably want that. Ohio State did not look great, particularly offensively, in beating Nebraska, but I really liked what their defense did. And I actually took more out. I kind of came away with a level of positivity about Ohio State. Maybe I'm the only one.
I think you're the only one.
But I kind of
I
I like their defense stood up, man.
Yeah.
And that's the question I've had, is that defense.
When they needed them late, they did.
They needed them late. They had a goal line stand. I mean, a win's a win anymore. I'm sorry. That if you're just sitting there like, we got to beat everybody by 35, that sport has sailed.
The problem is their defense was in the position to win it late because the offense struggled so much, especially, again, we just talked Colorado's offensive line. Man, the Buckeyes can't seem to move many people up front, which is really shocking.
And they had a big injury. So anyway, this is setting up. But thoughts on Penn State's performance Saturday night up in Madison, Pat?
Yeah, that was impressive because it was kind of rolling against them. Wisconsin had taken the lead. It was a madhouse. Aller's injury, kind of left a real question there. But kudos to Bo Pribula for stepping in and playing a great second half for Penn State. That dude's got some swagger to him. I mean, he's a good runner, but he was throwing some passes like into really tight windows. You're like, this guy's going to get picked off. But he didn't. He just kept chucking them in there and making plays and moving them down the field. And Penn State's defense is just flat out excellent. And they are a really good second half team. They have played some dominant second halves. This was another one of them. This is James Franklin's most complete team, I think. And it is a real luxury in 2024 to have quarterback depth, which they needed it there. And I think almost everybody's going to need it at some point. A&M needed it and had it. But it's hard to come by. And that was huge win, I think, for them. And now, now you go home and you got to pony back up and play Ohio State. And we all know the history of that rivalry under James Franklin. It has not been good for Penn State. But you're going in feeling good about yourself. We'll see what Aller's health is and what the QB situation looks like. But even if he can't play, you're like, we're not hopeless here.
Yeah, certainly give him hope, Bo Pribula. I mean, he entered the game having like around 30 career pass attempts, and he went 11 of 13. And you're right, Pat. He threw a couple in some pretty small windows, pretty tight windows there. So that was impressive. It helps when you can just kind of hand the ball off and get 6-7 yards at carry, which Penn State continues to do. I mean, they're as far as average yards of carry. I mean, it's a pretty incredible what Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are doing there for them. So that always helps. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. This does feel like James Franklin's best, most complete team that we've seen. And maybe this is the year, right? 1-9 against Ohio State in his 10 years.
It's a lot of pressure on Saturday. We'll get to more of that. Also, my favorite, Indiana wins again, unbeaten. Oregon wins again, unbeaten. Penn State, none of the three play each other. Other than the fact that we've gone over the Army-Navy could play 2 weeks in a row. The best quirk of the new world of college football of like, what the hell are we doing here? Is that Indiana, Penn State, and Oregon can all have perfect seasons, and one of them will be left out of the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, there you go. The Super Leagues, Dan, they don't always work. 18 team league. This is what you're left with.
I have the tiebreaker system. Okay, and I don't know who's leading it. But number 1 would be head-to-head matchups. There are none. Number 2 would be records against common opponents in the conference. Well, everybody's wins them all, so they'd be tied. Unless it goes to like 4-0 again, right? No, they couldn't even do that. I don't know. Tied. Then number 3 is record against common opponents with the best conference record and proceeding through the common conference opponents based on their order of finish within the conference standings. I don't know whether that would work or not, but they've won them all.
It would it probably would, because it's gonna be the toughest schedule, right? It's gonna be the team who played the toughest next few best teams probably. So that would probably be the one to separate at least one
Indiana
or two of
might
them.
be the team out. The number 4 would definitely break it. The tied teams will be compared based on best cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents. Then we could get to representative will be chosen based on highest ranking by the Sports Source Analytics team rating score metric.
The hell is that?
I'm rooting for Sports Source Analytics to decide the playoff. I really am.
It's one guy in Waukegan, Wisconsin, who has
in the basement.
I don't know what that is.
Yes.
And then finally, random draw. That's what we
need. That's what we want.
We want
a random draw, nationally televised on Big Ten Network.
Yep.
Right. Pat and I can be there as commentating this drawing, watched by millions of people. That's what we need.
Needs to be at the Steak and Shake in downtown Indianapolis.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's the spiritual home of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to the late November pods when we try to say who has these advantages in all these leagues. Everyone's going to be like, no, dude, you got it wrong. I did. I apologize in advance. Yeah. I'm going to get all the tiebreakers wrong. I don't know.
For what it's worth, heading into this last weekend, the record of Oregon's Big Ten opponents in conference play was 16-20. Penn State 15-22. Indiana 13-23. So,
yeah.
Now this obviously would for them all to get to be undefeated. Penn State and Indiana would both have to beat Ohio State. And at which point, if that happens, Ryan Day is fired, and there is looting and rioting in the streets in Columbus.
He might finally beat Michigan, though.
Yeah.
That'd be it. Lame Ducks last week. Ryan Day. Okay, we'll go back to this Ohio State game, which I tried to find the good side on. I mean, the pressure. He blew a gasket on the sideline. Perhaps for good reason on a call.
Yeah.
But I was right. They're not having any fun. And people are like, no, he's much more relaxed now. Dude, he's trailing Nebraska, and it was like the entire state of Ohio was just like death staring him.
Yeah.
Oh, brother. I mean, they won.
They won.
They won.
And I mean, that truly is the most important thing. But woof, I mean, as I think it was Ross said, their offensive line has got issues. They ran for 64 yards. Nebraska's defense is pretty good, but 64 yards. Well, and the other
they
thing,
gave up like 100 points to Indiana the week before.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
Pretty good.
What does that say about Indiana? I don't know. I mean, damn.
That's exactly. I mean, you've got to put that. You can't just kind of kick Indiana down the line in the playoff rankings right now if you're doing those, and because they keep winning, and by comparative score now they're looking better and better. But the other reason I was not willing to give Ohio State too much credit for just winning is Dylan Raiola missed how many open touchdown passes? He's good and he's going to get a lot better, but right now he is throwing the ball 5 yards away from guys that are open in the end zone or near the end zone. And you're just letting those points get away in a game you lose by 4.
That fade pass he throws, just doesn't have it yet. He's going to get it. He's going to get it. This kid is good. The one thing about him is the moment wasn't too big for him. He just doesn't throw that pass well. He didn't in the loss to Illinois either. But they're open. And it's like, you can just see Matt Rule's program coming, man. It's just like, I know they looked horrible a week ago. We bury them, but this is the Overreaction podcast. As discussed earlier, the Florida State Miami game ends with Mario Cristobal crowing and saying, you can see the upward trajectory of this program and not the other especially in comparison to the other programs in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So they douse Florida State 36-14. Florida wants all the recruits in state and out of state to know where to come if you want to come play in the state of Florida. Miami's 8-0, Florida State's 1-7, and Florida, who knows? So they're crowing, and for good reason. This was, this was a really nice win. Their defense, which is suspect, did a good job against Florida State, which maybe doesn't say much, but I don't care. If you're Miami and you come and beat handily Florida and Florida State in the same year, like that matters.
Huge. No, I mean, that's why he took advantage of the opportunity for a little recruiting stump speech there, because they're the one program that's not in disarray there. You can even throw Central Florida, which isn't having a good year either. So, it's all right there. I think if you go through and you want to find a team that is most likely to be 12-0 heading into a championship game, it's Miami. Their remaining schedule: Duke at home, at Georgia Tech, Wake Forest at home, at Syracuse. Couple kind of tricky games in there, but if you make me pick a team and say, yep, they're going to run it, I'm taking Miami.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of it, Miami might not have played I think I mentioned this before, they might not have played a team that finishes in the top 25 in the regular season. So, yeah, I agree with Pat. Boy, Mario was not only in the postgame, but, late in the fourth quarter, they decided to just pour it on, didn't they? Down in the red zone, up like 3 scores with like 4 minutes left, right? They ran I think it was like a reverse pass to the quarterback, Cam Ward, for a touchdown, and then went for 2. I mean, so they were rolling it up, man, keeping it spicy down there.
Yeah, they Philly specialed them. I mean, that was pretty sassy. Pretty sassy.
About Pat, your SMU picked them to win the ACC. Looking pretty in the mix right now. Beat
Still
Duke in overtime. Yeah,
unbelievable. I mean, did you see the box score from that? They turned it over 6 times. They were a -6 turnovers and won. I don't know when anybody's done that in a league game. I'm sure it's happened, but that's almost impossible. Navy was a -6 turnovers and lost by 37. They were -6 and they won.
Yeah, Pat, I have an answer for you to that question, actually. Okay. I saw it.
Okay.
I can't remember who here we go. This is from CBS Sports, from Brandon Marcello. CBS Sports research team said that the last time a team won a game with losing the turnover battle 6-0 or worse was 2011. Marshall won at Memphis 23-22 in 2011, having the 6-0 turnover disadvantage. So yeah, pretty remarkable that you're able to win a game losing the turnover battle by 6, and sets up a massive game. Pitt obviously pounded Syracuse on Thursday night, 3 pick sixes, I think, for Pitt in that game, and so it sets up a ACC battle royale of undefeated teams. Pitt at SMU. All right,
let's do it.
Nothing says 2024 like the ACC showdown game between Pitt and SMU.
That's right.
Yep. Amazing. I mean, at some point, Pitt's got to get taken seriously. You want a winning formula? 3 pick sixes will do it. I would say I don't need a sports stat. What was that thing that the Big Ten claims they now have?
Sports Source Analytics.
Yeah, I don't need them to say, I bet a team that has 3 pick sixes is undefeated at all time. Hard to lose when you do that. But, the defense is good, opportunistic. obviously. Eli Holstein, who originally signed at Alabama, never saw the field. I mean, this is the portal taketh and giveth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Narduzzi, Coach Narduzzi, we love him for his outspokenness. He has just trashed the transfer portal every which way, but man, he's got a pretty nice little quarterback out of it.
And a running back, Desmond Reed, running back / receiver, all-purpose kind of guy who's made a ton of plays from Western Carolina.
Yeah, so he brings him up. He gets Holstein, quote-unquote, down. But, you know, this is the story of this season. Guys like Eli Holstein aren't sitting around saying, I'll wait my turn. You know, he could be a freshman backing up Milroe right now and saying, I'll be the starting quarterback at Alabama as a sophomore. Instead, he's like, he redshirted. You know, that could be Eli Holstein's career. And he said, that's a pretty good idea. Instead, he's like, yeah, I'll go to Pitt. Maybe he stays there. Maybe goes back to Alabama or goes somewhere else. I don't know. No, don't kill me, Narduzzi. I mean, Pat Narduzzi mad at me. I'm just saying anything's hypothetical. But right now he's out there balling for, you know, Pitt. And they're 7-0, man. 7-0. One more big one from the weekend was Boise State. Talked about it, 29-24 victory at UNLV. Good, strong performance. Great crowd at UNLV. We talked about how just kind of fun it was that the Group of Five or the Mountain West had such a huge mid-season game. As big of a mid-season Mountain West game as you can kind of imagine. Ashton Genty, 33 carries for 128. I like how they're just like, listen, man, if we're gonna lose, we're gonna lose with this guy running the ball. But what do you think of the big game Friday night? Pat?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the Mountain West delivered a good competitive game in a big spot. Two teams that may meet again for the championship. But Boise, and Boise, they didn't get a dominant game from Genty. They got a workhorse game from him, and then Maddox Madsen made some plays, and their defense made some plays. So Boise keeps moving on, and I think certainly with Navy's comeuppance, we'll see about Army, but I think Boise is separating a little more even from the rest of the Group of Five pack. They still have to win the Mountain West, right? But as of right now, I don't think there's anybody that's going to put together a mock bracket that doesn't have Boise as the Group of Five team in there.
We talk a lot about strength of schedule and scheduling tough, right? And you know, we criticize Liberty, you know, about their schedule. Sometimes scheduling tough, even losing these games helps you. And I think the Oregon game helps Boise tremendously, that they were able to stay right there. People are going to continue to go back and point to that game. And I think, I'd agree. I'd agree with Pat. I think they are pulling away as far as the G5. You kind of look at who's in really contention in the Group of Five. Army, Navy still in the American along with Memphis, and Memphis survived yesterday and still in it, and maybe Tulane, but Tulane has 2 losses. And then you look at, Boise and UNLV in the Mountain West, and Liberty had the loss, and given that strength of schedule, I think they're out. MAC is beating each other up, and UL Monroe took a loss in the Sun Belt. Did Louisiana play or the Raging Cajuns? I can't remember.
Louisiana's still 6-1.
They are off. Yeah, so it's them. So you think Army, Navy, Memphis, Tulane, Boise, UNLV, and Louisiana with the one loss. Those are kind of your contender kind of group of contenders. It feels like, and Boise seems like far and away better, but you really can't afford to lose anymore, you know, and the only one of that group can really afford to lose is probably Army to Notre Dame.
All right, we'll be back. Small sample Heisman. Say something nice. They give out the Heisman at the end of the year. We like giving it out every week. Anyone got a small sample Heisman? Pat?
I'm going to go back to that Thursday night beatdown that Pitt put on Syracuse. And I'm going to give it to Rasheem Biles, linebacker for the Panthers from Columbus, Ohio. I bet he wasn't recruited by the Buckeyes, but he's having a great season for them. And he was the fire starter. He was the first pick sixer. Got the first one and ran it back for the touchdown and then went on to also have 12 tackles in the game. Do you have a sack? Yes, he had a sack. He's just been a great player, and he caught my eye last year because he was a Narduzzi-like specialist. He blocked 3 punts. He led the nation in blocked punts, and that's really all he did. He didn't play other than special teams. And I was like, I wonder what they're going to do with him this year. He's a starter. He's among their leading tacklers, and he had the pick 6 there that got that absolute avalanche rolling against Syracuse. So I'm giving my small sample Heisman to Rasheem Biles of Pitt.
Dan, do you know who John Mateer is?
I do not. Does he win a small sample Heisman?
He does. Washington State quarterback.
Oh,
John
yes. Okay.
Mateer. Yeah. Sophomore, led the Cougars back from they were down 12 points with midway through or early in the fourth quarter, led them back against San Diego State late last night. And Washington State is 7-1. And they present a fascinating situation to the selection committee because just to remind everybody, they can't get an automatic qualifier, can't in one of the 5 AQs, so they have to get an at large. And their schedule is basically, a Mountain West schedule for the most part. But they have a pretty good win over Texas Tech. It continues to look worse as Texas Tech lost last night. The TCU blew a huge lead, but and they played at Boise and got whipped pretty good. But I just wonder, if they're 11-1, how the selection committee will view them. It would be like a group of 5 program, with one loss basically, who misses their championship game. So fascinating to see. But John Mateer had a big game, led them back from the win to the win. San Diego State. He had 250 through the air, and he had another 45 yards or so on the ground. Scored 4 touchdowns. So the Cougars, no home right now, really, conference wise, no AQ, but hey, they might be right there.
Yeah, that was my lock of the week. It was obviously did not come through, but they did pull out the win, and yeah, I did. It was a great late performance by Washington State to get that because they look beat. Small sample Heisman. I'm going to give an honorable one to Quinn Ewers, who after this not good performance against Georgia and getting benched and having everyone talk, is there a controversy? And should they have gone back to him? Who should be the starter, him or Arch? All this stuff comes out and has 3 touchdowns, 228 yards passing. At one point, he had 17 straight completions against Vanderbilt. Really good game against Vanderbilt. Texas wins 27-24, which is not easy anymore to beat Vandy. And so I'm going to give an honorable one to him because he had 2 picks, too. It wasn't like it was that dominant, but not easy to do. And with all the money and all the different stuff, sometimes it's easy to forget they're still college players, and trying to navigate that good of a game and all that pressure. So pretty good by Quinn Ewers, and Texas needed that victory because that thing looked like a serious trap. But Auburn running back Jarquez Hunter, he deserves a small sample Heisman. This is what this award is for. 23 carries in the Tigers' 24-10 victory at Kentucky, which they desperately needed. 278 yards. No one has rushed for more yards in a single game this season than Hunter did on Saturday. Not even Ashton Genty. That's a big time performance. And Auburn was they got QB problems. They just hand it off to Hunter. Just go there. So I'm gonna give my small sample Heisman there. Say something nice. Said some mean things. Said some snarky things. Said some things that upset people, I'm sure, which we'll hear about. Can we say something nice? Pat, you're a big offender of this. Can you say something nice about someone?
I am going to say something legitimately nice. I was going to say something nice about Auburn, but you covered that. Hugh Freeze, who flew in late after being sick, like maybe food poisoning or something, like flew
Oh, yeah, I
in the
forgot
day
about
of the
that one.
game. And
Could have done that
Yeah,
hospital bed thing. Remember the
Yeah,
hospital
right.
bed?
Oh,
one
yeah,
when
He
he
gave the thumbs up.
Thumbs
Yeah,
up.
when
from the hospital.
he coached the game from the hospital bed.
That's
That was
dedication, grit.
Classic.
Yeah. But no,
I'm glad
I'm
we were
gonna.
getting play-by-play of Hugh Freeze's trip and illness during Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing? Oh, it's
Oh
hilarious.
yeah, right. Yeah. The plane has landed. Okay, good.
Yeah, the
Great.
Sick Hugh is there. Also,
Yeah.
I think On 3 made this, like, let's just be honest, ridiculous graphic of Hugh and like illness is like in huge bold letters across the graphic. Like, oh my God.
Tremendous. Anyway, I'm going to say something nice about somebody we've said a lot of nice things about, but they keep deserving more. Indiana, game day comes to town, but you're missing your starting quarterback, and you still win handily. Again, you still have not trailed in a game. Beat Washington. This has been pretty much an offense-driven program, but they score their first touchdown on a pick six. Guy intercepts a bubble screen and runs it back for a touchdown. They jump ahead. They stay ahead. Taven Jackson plays the game, backup quarterback. He was not great, but he was certainly good enough. And among the many things Kurt Cignetti has done well, keeping a quality, veteran, proven backup quarterback on the roster is certainly one of them. So Indiana continues to handle its moments and take care of its business. Stakes keep rising, but they're right there with them, and we will see if they can keep it going and end up in this playoff.
Yeah, incredible what they've done there. BYU, they went. They're undefeated. Obviously, they went to UCF. They were an underdog at UCF, and they did not take that lightly. After the game, they ended up routing the Knights down there in Orlando. Part of the reason they won too is this incredible fake field goal. I don't know if you guys saw this.
It was
holder.
awesome. Glad you
It was
brought it.
unbelievable. It reminded me of the Les Monte LSU, over the shoulder fake, no look fake. This was kind of a between the legs, a holder took the snap and then from the center and then threw it under beneath his legs to the kicker who was in stride running and had an option to pass, and then he just kept it for the first down. He didn't even need to pass. It was awesome. But BYU continues to get slighted by the odds makers. There's a stat here. BYU has been BYU. This is according to ESPN. BYU is the second team since 1990 to win its first 8 games, despite being underdogs in half of them, 4 of them. So they continue to be doubted, and they continue to win. Kalani Sitake and the group 8-0 in atop the Big 12 standings with Iowa State. Incredible season, especially after a 5-win year last season.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, I'm going to say something nice about Law and Order. Law and Order. Not the show. Law and Order. Starts with the new really fun Twitter follow, Texas A&M Police.
Oh, yes.
Seen this thing?
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Early in the season, they report their crimes at the game. They reported someone was really drunk and he got arrested and then was handed into the custody of his wife, which led to everyone say, "Oh no, or take me to jail before you release me drunk to my wife." Last night in the middle of the game, Section 335, subject arrested for possession of cocaine. There's all sorts of Manziel jokes, but like really? Like you needed a bump in the middle of the game?
The game wasn't crazy enough for you, right? You didn't have enough adrenaline pumping in the huge comeback in the second half. You needed a little bump, huh?
Leave it like pre-game, post-game. Maybe I'm more understanding, but in the middle of the game, really?
Yeah.
Leave it in the car? I don't know. Yet, whoever this guy in 335 got nailed for having the powder. It reads Section 335, subject arrested for possession of cocaine. And then there's a hashtag, which if you read it out, says beat the hell out of LSU. So the Texas A&M police are in on hashtag beat the hell out of LSU.
Sure.
Which is great.
Spencer Hall.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Now, Spencer Hall,
hysterical,
perennially hilarious Twitter observer of all things in college football, noted that the A&M comeback started about the time that guy got arrested. So.
Yeah, there was something to it. You don't know what the magic is. I also will then say Law and Order. The Northern Egg Bowl did not disappoint.
Oh, yeah.
No,
cool.
My goodness, no.
Diag partner stat of the week. 2 consecutive Michigan games played in Ann Arbor. There's been fights. How's that stat? They won't let them leave the same time in the small tunnel. They expanded the tunnel, and they have all these protocols to get the teams off the field separately. Well, the innovative minds at Michigan State football playing roster said, well, if we can't brawl in the tunnel, let's just get it done out in the field. So Michigan wins the game, which they desperately needed. A nice performance by Davis Warren coming back off of, he got buried in the depth chart. Now he's back. But there's a late game brawl, which lends itself to the lore. Sharon Moore's like, yeah, that's not what we're about. I'm not so sure if that isn't. Colston Loveland of Michigan immediately declares it was about Lil Bro stay doing Lil Bro things.
Couldn't help.
Then said, if they want to get busy, we'll get busy.
Yeah.
Then he had to didn't he clarify it later? He was like, "Oh, let me clarify what I meant by little bro. We know what you meant."
Yeah, we absolutely
it's
know.
not. There's no clarifications.
Yeah.
No.
What?
No.
And all of it reminded me of what I missed in my rundown of the antics at Michigan State. One of our favorites was when the Attorney General of Michigan drank too many Bloody Marys. Remember this one at the tailgate on an empty stomach, and she needed to be wheeled out of Spartan Stadium, allegedly?
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
Oh,
That's Law and Order at the Northern Egg Bowl. I'm guessing the Washtenaw County prosecutors will not be charging any of the Michigan players for hitting anybody. I don't know who was at fault. I don't want they started it. It doesn't matter. Guys want to punch each other in the helmet.
You'll get those anyway, whether you wanted them or not.
I don't know who started it. I don't care. I didn't look at the tape. I'm sure whoever you think is the worst party here, you are correct. Whatever that may be. But thank you, Michigan State, for never disappointing. The seasons may not be what your fans are hoping for, although I think Michigan State fans should see a glimmer of hope considering where they were a year ago. But at least the game plays out, and that's what we really need. And apparently no one was doing coke inside Michigan Stadium. So, or at least caught doing it or owning it.
Caught.
Yeah. If you caught one, many others probably had it.
I think if you just take 100,000 randos, statistically, someone's going to have a bag of coke on them, probably, right?
I guess. Depends on the city, maybe. But yeah.
Well, a college station it's not exactly Vegas, okay?
Yeah, no, true. But college, yeah.
College, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, that's our show. We'll be back Tuesday. Big week coming up. We'll discuss all the antics and narratives. Thank you for listening to our Overreaction show. Thanks for sharing us on social media. We will talk to you later.